Revealed, incredible moment when Mafia boss transformed a single mom's life at luxury restaurant. Maria balanced trays of food darting through the bustling dining room, her heart heavy with the weight of her responsibilities. As a single mom working tirelessly at one of Chicago's renowned restaurants, her dreams often felt as distant as the skyline outside. Each night, the restaurant filled with the city's elite, laughter echoing around her like a cruel reminder of the life she couldn't afford. She was seen, yet invisible, a mere cog in the vast machinery that celebrated status over hard work. The rent was overdue, and the desperate needs of her children gnawed at her soul, leaving her to question her purpose. On that busy Friday night, the air crackled with anticipation as Vincent the Don Moretti strode in, draped in luxury, a king surveying his realm. Maria's hands froze mid-motion. Rumors of his ruthless dealings rippled through the staff like an electric current, but her focus narrowed on the weight of her own life. She inhaled sharply, forcing herself to mask her unease. Behind the bustling tables, her children's faces surfaced in her mind, driving her to downplay her anxiety. She approached him, determined to treat him like any other guest, balancing kindness with professionalism. "Welcome to La Bellezza, sir. Can I start you with something to drink?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremors in her chest. As he ordered, Maria couldn't shake the look in his eyes, the flicker of something deeper, something that spoke to her struggle. She sensed a kinship. It ignited a spark in her heart. But a moment later, doubt seeped into the crevices of her mind. Would he see her as just a waitress, a desperate woman? Anxiety flared within. She had known hardship too well and could not afford to be dependent on someone like him. Yet, when she smiled at him, something shifted in his demeanor. Before she could gather her thoughts, the other servers buzzed around her, whispers rising about the Don's presence. "Stay away from him," one warned, the urgency coloring her tone. Yet Maria felt drawn to Vincent, not his reputation, but the glimmer of understanding in his gaze as she seamlessly poured wine for a table of guests, navigating life with a forced smile. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The tension heightened as the whispers became sharper, the uncertainty creeping into her very core. She could almost hear the criticisms from her friends playing in a loop. What would people say if they saw you with him? A connection to the underworld? The thought made her stomach churn. Maria would not be reduced to gossip or worse, a punching bag for the judgment of others. Yet the more she gazed at Vincent as he dined, the more she envisioned the dreams she held for her children slipping through her fingers like sand. Then, unexpectedly, Vincent caught her eye and motioned her over. The moment felt electric, a sudden desire tumbling loose, flipping her reality upside down. As he leaned in, offering words of support for her children's education, her heart raced in tandem with her mounting fears. Could she accept this mercy from him? She felt like a moth drawn to the flame. If she took his help, would the shadows of his life consume her? The answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain as the unseen dangers behind Vincent began to materialize. Her breath hitched as she realized she stood on the precipice of a choice that could alter everything. Maria felt the ground shift under her feet, and twilight crept into her mind, beckoning her toward a future filled with both peril and potential. Maria stood there, eyes locked with Vincent, her mind racing through every conceivable worst-case scenario. The room buzzed around her, radiant clinks of glasses and laughter blending into a symphony of distraction. Yet, in that moment, she was drawn deep into Vincent's orbit as if nothing else existed. The fierce determination from within began to clash violently with the waves of fear washing over her. Could she really consider the possibility of accepting his help? "Why do you care?" she'd almost blurt when she clawed her way through the silence that enveloped them both. It was a question almost too venomous to utter, but the curiosity simmered beneath. Vincent leaned back, the weight of his stature emanating a dominance that seemed both comforting and intimidating. "I see potential in you. You're not just a server," he replied, his voice like velvet, a soothing balm to her weary soul. He meant it, she knew. His gaze wandered to the children's drawings pinned to the wall behind the bar, each one a raw representation of the hopes she clung to. She took a shaky breath. What did it mean to be seen as more than a waitress? It was a dangerous allure, an opportunity to grasp something slightly out of reach. But she had to question if she was prepared to step into that light and cast off the shadows of her life. Would that light come from him, a man whose very existence danced on a razor's edge? "I don't know if I can trust you," she finally said, the words tasting like iron. The determination in her voice surprised her. It was a slight victory over the frustration she felt writhing inside. "Trust must be earned, not given blindly. But your children's futures deserve better," he affirmed. His words were weighted, an offer wrapped in gravity that demanded her attention but didn't bind her yet. The nuance in his proposition unsettled her. Could he truly care about someone like her, or was this merely a strategic move? In the days that followed, the restaurant's fast-paced life returned to monotony, the glamour of interacting with Vincent faded into routine. Still, his words replayed in her head, an echo imploring her to recognize her worth. Fueled by a new sense of possibility, she longed for something that transcended her daily struggles. With each passing table she served, her resolve strengthened. Maria vowed to demonstrate not only her capability as a mother but also as a woman who wouldn't be confined to the roles society allowed her. The mission became clearer. She would take action, not out of desperation for Vincent's assistance, but for her children. She began to research online for scholarships and community resources. Late evenings, long after her shift ended, she pored through PDFs and email threads. The determination to build a future was superseding the temptation of a shortcut. But not all transformations come without setbacks. The bar staff sensed her shifting momentum and whispers resurfaced thick with judgment. "Maria thinks she is too good to serve now," one remarked loud enough for her to hear. With growing ferocity, she muttered a silent resolve. They did not know what she could see, what was possible for her. This fire ignited something deeper within her, a purpose influenced by the near-miss encounter with Vincent, now guiding each decision. But just as her fortified spirit began to take root, the unwelcome shadow of a complicated past emerged. A looming confrontation sparked tension within her. Would the very choices she had begun to make now force her to address things she thought she had left behind? As the gears of her internal world clicked into place, it dawned on her that the stakes were escalating far beyond her immediate realm. An unexpected message arrived, triggering a visceral reaction, a reminder that Vincent was still watching from the edges of her ambition. Would she embrace this invitation to a greater opportunity, or would she be swept into territory she was unfamiliar with? With her heart racing, she knew one thing was clear: her life was about to change, but at what cost? Maria hadn't anticipated feeling such an unsettling mix of excitement and dread. As she stared at her phone, the words from Vincent lingered, as heavy as they were inspiring. "The first step is always the hardest." He had planted the seed of possibility, yet now it felt like a chokehold around her resolve. Minutes stretched like hours as she weighed the implications of his message. It wasn't simply an invitation, it was a challenge. Was she truly ready to step into the potential he saw, or was she destined to return to the shadows, where doubt buried her ambitions beneath layers of self-sabotage? The next day at the restaurant, the atmosphere buzzed with the usual chatter. However, Maria felt different. Confidence swirled inside her, however, it didn't provide the comfort she sought. Instead, it stood like a weight, pushing her closer to a crucial decision. Yet, laughter bounced around her like rubber balls, a maddening reminder of her mundane existence. As she collected empty plates and glasses, she overheard snippets of colleagues snickering quietly. The disapproving glances directed at her sparked irritation within. "Just because Vincent glanced at her doesn't make her special," one remarked. Biting her tongue, Maria redirected that irritation inward, transforming it into fuel for the fire smoldering in her gut. They just didn't know what she was capable of, they didn't understand her potential. Her shift concluded, yet she remained seated in the nearly empty bar, typing rapidly. She researched career workshops, community colleges, and ways to forge a new identity, one that didn't solely revolve around parenting and serving drinks. She envisioned a life filled with ambition, laughter, and learning, a life filled with trust in herself. But old habits die hard. The face of her past reared its head, igniting stomach-churning memories that haunted her at night. The sheer thought of addressing these issues sent her heart racing. Still, she knew they wouldn't simply fade away. They were anchors that needed cutting. Doubts clawed at her resolve. Would she really be able to detach from the shadows that threatened to engulf her? An invisible tether seemed to cling tightly to her, reminding her of fear, of taking risks, of failure. As she sank deeper into her thoughts, her phone vibrated unexpectedly, a notification from Vincent. "Let us meet. I have something serious to discuss." Panic intertwining with curiosity, she stared at the words and deliberated. Was she ready to accept his help? What kind of future would that mean for her and her children? Her heart drummed in her chest, dominating her thoughts and drowning out the whispers of negativity swirling in her mind. All those hours of researching, envisioning, and planning came down to a crucial juncture. Would she allow herself to be seen to rise above the societal confines and embrace both fear and opportunity? With every fiber of her being screaming for clarity, she thumbed a response, her heart racing as she typed, "When and where?" The weight of the moment settled over her, merging excitement and dread. Would this be her new beginning or another specter of disappointment? Her breath hitched in her chest as she stared at the blinking cursor on her phone, a digital representation of her own uncertainty, a pulsating symbol of the confrontation that lay ahead. The moment held with it a tension thick as fog, each second stretching as she awaited his reply. How would she confront the choices that could either dismantle her carefully crafted walls or build something magnificent and entirely unknown? As that thought loomed, another message popped up, hot, immediate, and laced with a cryptic urgency: "Meet me tonight. You need to know the truth." Maria's breath caught. The truth. What did Vincent mean? What truth awaited her, and how would it affect everything she had begun to build? A rush of uncertainty rolled through her as she weighed her next move. There was no turning back now, the stakes were too high. She slipped her phone into her pocket with newfound determination, knowing that tonight would demand every ounce of courage she had. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to confront it, even if it meant facing the shadows of her past. As she walked out of the bar into the night, the weight of the world shifted, and she felt a flicker of resolve lighting her path. Could she unravel the mystery of Vincent's intentions and still pursue her dreams without losing herself? Only time would reveal the answer, but she was willing to embrace it head-on. The dim lighting of the upscale restaurant was a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotions swirling within Maria as she stepped inside. The air was heavy with anticipation, each heartbeat echoing her desire to break free from the constraints of her past. As she scanned the room, she found Vincent seated at a corner table, the candlelight flickering across his calm demeanor. There was a resolve in his eyes that steadied her racing heart. Maria approached cautiously, a mixture of hope and anxiety gnawing at her. What truth awaited her? What did he see in her that even she struggled to recognize? Sitting down, she steadied her breath, willing herself to suppress the self-doubt that nagged at the edges of her awareness. "Thanks for coming," Vincent said, his voice smooth yet firm. "I know this is a big step for you." She nodded, grappling with the gravity of the moment. "What did you mean by the truth?" she inquired, her voice steady despite the clamor of uncertainty inside. Vincent leaned in, his expression earnest. "I've watched you over the past few weeks. You have potential that your situation threatens to eclipse. But there are layers to your journey you haven't faced yet. Those anchors that weigh you down, they can either be tools for growth or chains that bind you." His words struck her like lightning. Maria felt her heart race, both exhilarated and frightened by the road ahead. This was the moment she craved a confrontation with her past that could either set her free or plunge her into despair. If I want to change my life, I need to face them, don't I? She answered, the clarity of her inquiry surprising even herself. Yes, Vincent replied, leaning back as if assessing her readiness. It's about reclaiming your narrative. You can't control what others think or say. What matters is your vision for yourself. But the ghosts of your past they won't let go easily. Maria absorbed his words, realizing how deeply rooted those fears were within her. For years, she had allowed the shades of her past to dictate her self-worth. Would acknowledgement be enough to dismantle the binds that held her? Where do I start? She asked, her resolve sharpening. I can't allow doubt to eclipse this opportunity. A small smile crept onto his face, a flicker of encouragement that ignited something within her. It starts with honesty. Acknowledge your fears. Embrace your strengths. You've already begun by showing up here tonight. Now, let us outline a plan. As they spoke, Vincent articulated strategies that resonated deeply within her, a path that emphasized her skills through targeted workshops and mentorship opportunities. Each suggestion felt like a layer of old skin flaking away. She was not just a waitress or a mother, she was a woman with dreams, crafting a new version of herself. Yet beneath the excitement, Maria felt the shadows still lurking, questioning her capacity to truly change. The faces of doubt and ridicule floated in her mind, lingering like dark clouds threatening to drown her spirit. Vincent, she hesitated, uncertainty clouding her voice. What if I fail? What if I lose everything I'm building? He silenced her fears with a steady look. Failure is a part of growth. The real question is what you're willing to risk for your dreams. Are you ready to confront those fears and take action? In that moment, something clicked inside her. She could be more than what others expected. The shift was profound, a sense of agency blossoming within her like a phoenix rising. She was ready to reclaim her narrative. As they finalized their plans, she felt a stirring of determination, a glimmer of a fierce confidence that had long been dormant. But even as she embraced this new journey, the shadows loomed, whispering reminders of her doubts. Maria, Vincent's voice cut through her thoughts. Tonight is only the beginning. You must continue pushing forward. There's a world of opportunities out there, but it requires your courage. His words ignited a new flame. Maria felt alive with possibility. No longer would she hide behind the confines of fear. She would confront the truth, not only about her past but about her capacity for greatness. But all of this opportunity posed a significant challenge. As she left the restaurant, a sudden thought crashed through her. What if the confrontation of her past wouldn't just be a remote memory but something that was still very much alive? Her heart raced again, not with fear this time, but with a firm resolve. The path forward was clear, yet the struggle awaited. She wouldn't back down from the shadows, but she needed to prepare for what lay ahead. In the events that would soon transpire, she would confront those ghosts, both old and new. Would she emerge victorious, or would the past consume her once more? The truth was drawing near, and she had to face it. As Maria walked away from the restaurant, a new resolve surged through her veins, rekindling the embers of her ambitions. Each step felt heavier yet somehow lighter, as if she were shedding the weight of her insecurities. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced around her, reflecting the duality of her spirit torn between fear and determination. The conversation with Vincent churned in her mind, sculpting her next moves. His emphasis on honesty couldn't have come at a better time. She needed to confront her past, but she also needed to fortify her present. Maria reached for her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen, hesitating as her heartbeat quickened. She felt compelled to reach out, to connect, yet fear of rejection held her back. In a burst of impulse, she opened her contacts and typed a quick message to her friend, Clara, inviting her for coffee to discuss a workshop Vincent recommended. Clara had always been her sounding board, but she had also been the one to voice doubts in the past. How would she respond now, knowing Maria was seeking to elevate herself? The reply buzzed quickly, full of encouragement, and Maria felt a surge of gratitude. But as she read Clara's enthusiastic response, a voice in her mind whispered that this was still fragile territory. The question loomed, would Clara's support wane when faced with Maria's growing confidence? Shrugging off those thoughts, Maria walked into a small café awash in warm colors, the kind of place that felt like a hug. The scent of roasted coffee enveloped her, grounding her in this moment of choice. As she settled into the chair, her nerves tingled with anticipation for the upcoming conversation. When Clara arrived, the energy between them felt different. Maria sensed a shift in their dynamic, the weight of the past stayed buried deeper, and the air crackled with unspoken possibilities. They exchanged polite, friendly banter before diving into the core of Maria's intentions. "I want to explore new opportunities," Maria said, her voice steady yet vulnerable, exposing her ambitions to Clara's scrutiny. "I'm considering workshops and potentially even a new career path." Clara's brow furrowed momentarily, her hesitation clear. "That's great, Maria. Just try to be realistic, alright? It's a big leap." A deeper breath filled Maria's lungs, and she met Clara's gaze. "I know it's a risk, but I've decided that living in fear is worse than failing. I need to honor what I want." At that moment, Maria realized she wasn't just advocating for her dreams, she was defending her right to exist beyond the constraints of her past. A flicker of admiration sparked in Clara's eyes, dimming the shadow of doubt. "What do you need from me?" Clara asked softly, the change in her tone signifying a shift from the doubter to a potential ally. "Support. Understanding. Someone to bounce ideas off of," Maria articulated, clarity infusing her words. Vulnerability blossomed as she shared her aspirations for the future, the desire to redefine herself, to become someone she respected and cherished. As Clara nodded, a weight lifted off Maria's shoulders. Yet, as elation coursed through her, the question still lingered: would her friend wholeheartedly support her through the turbulence that was sure to follow? Their conversation meandered through dreams and fears, laughter filling the spaces where uncertainty once resided. The anchoring warmth of Clara's acceptance emboldened Maria, igniting an unexpected thrill. But just as Maria felt a sense of safety blooming, memories of past betrayals crept into her thoughts, voices from her distant past that had cut down her confidence and stifled her spirit. They echoed against her newfound courage, threatening to fracture the fragile bond she was crafting with her own strengths. Later that night, the doubts returned like uninvited guests. Could her past truly remain buried as she climbed toward her future? How would she resist the urge to retreat to familiar shadows when pressure mounted? Maria sat on her bed, entangled in her thoughts, seeking clarity. She closed her eyes and envisioned the person she wanted to become. Determination wrapped around her heart, yet the echoes of doubt still clawed at her resolve. As she grabbed her journal to jot down her thoughts, one question loomed larger than the others: would she draw strength from her journey, or would confronting her past unleash a tempest that would threaten to undo her newfound growth? Ripped between dreams and fears, Maria realized that her quest was only just beginning. The confrontation of her past was not merely a matter of facing the memories but an exploration of the courage required to redefine her identity. The shadows were not as distant as she hoped, and tomorrow would bring her one step closer to uncovering the truths that still haunted her. The confrontation was imminent, and she could feel it stirring, a confrontation that had the power to change her life forever. The morning sunlight poured into Maria's small apartment, awakening her with a warm, golden embrace. Yet the glow couldn't fully dispel the shadows of anxiety lingering on the edges of her resolve. Today marked the beginning of a series of workshops intended to embolden her aspirations and carve a pathway to the person she envisioned. With a heart racing between excitement and terror, she prepared her belongings, reflecting on the depths of her commitment. As she stood at the front door, the weight of the uncharted future knocked against her confidence. Today, she wouldn't just participate in the workshop, she would engage, challenge herself to contribute meaningfully. For years, Maria had reserved her voice for quiet corners, hiding in the safety of silence. But that time was over. She was determined to emerge, to grasp the opportunities Vincent had stirred within her. Arriving at the venue, Maria felt the palpable pulse of ambition and creativity filling the atmosphere. Colleagues, entrepreneurs, and dreamers alike buzzed around her, their energy revitalizing her senses. It was intoxicating yet daunting. Each person was a reminder of how far she had previously shunned her own potential. With a determined breath, Maria stepped inside the large, conference room. The workshop began, and the facilitator, a poised woman with an air of confidence, immediately commanded the room. However, Maria's mind wandered, flickering between her ambitions and remnants of the past that haunted her every endeavor. A part of her knew that her past needed to be confronted, but in this moment of collective aspirations, she wanted desperately to align with her desires to reach beyond the confines of self-doubt. As the session progressed, they began an exercise encouraging vulnerability. Maria's stomach twisted in fear as the directive was shared. Each participant was to express their biggest professional fear to the group. The room resonated with apprehension, but it also pulsed with a collective understanding. As she watched others share their fears, Maria's heart raced, the urge to remain silent battling with an impulse to let her voice be heard. When her turn arrived, a swell of courage whispered within her. "I fear being seen as inadequate," she admitted, the words spilling from her lips in a breathless rush. "For years, I've let that fear dictate my choices, keeping me from pursuing what I truly want." A hush fell over the room, the collective empathy almost tangible. She felt the need to articulate how debilitating the instinct to retreat had been, how often she'd let the weight of others' opinions dictate her worth. The fear had kept her stagnant, and now that consciousness was almost a chain heavy yet familiar. As she spoke, something shifted within her. The recognition from the audience was freeing, transforming her shame into a form of empowerment. With each word, she chipped away at the barriers that had long overshadowed her resolve. The exchanges that followed after her revelation were equally cathartic. Others shared their own insecurities, each story reinforcing that she wasn't alone. The power inherent in vulnerability became an undercurrent, lifting her above the noise of self-doubt. The workshop culminated with a commitment exercise. Participants were challenged to declare one actionable step they would take by the end of the week toward their goals. Maria contemplated her ambitions, realizing she needed to take an active role in her own story. "I will initiate a conversation with my old mentor," she proclaimed, her voice gaining strength. The decision electrified her spirit, echoing a commitment to face the past head-on. Both thrilling and terrifying, she knew it was a necessary step towards a future defined by her own choices. As the session wrapped, the connections forged felt like strands plotting a new trajectory. Clara's earlier encouragement swirled through her mind, but this time, tethered less to fear of rejection and more to quiet arrogance in her emerging authenticity. Just as she walked toward the exit, a lingering doubt curled within the recesses of her mind, the uncertainty over whether this newly founded determination could withstand future challenges. Would her bravery hold up when faced with the consequences of her choices? Could confronting her past and her mentor reveal not just former wounds but also hidden strengths? Maria stepped into the sunlight outside the venue, emboldened yet unsettled. The challenge wasn't merely in claiming her space in the present, it lay in navigating the labyrinth of her past. Resolved to confront the echoes of doubt, she took a breath as anticipation fizzled within her. The time had come to face the rising tide of shadows and discover what truth lay below the surface. With her heart racing anew, she questioned, was she truly ready for the confrontation that awaited her? The upcoming meeting with her mentor loomed large, filled with potential revelations that could reverberate through her journey of self-redefinition. She felt pulled toward the unfolding story, but the question remained, would this upcoming encounter solidify her transformation or plunge her back into familiar fears? The days leading to her meeting with her mentor felt like a paradox. Each morning, Maria woke with renewed ambition, yet the closer she drew to the actual encounter, the more her resolve wavered. Eager anticipation battled against tightening anxiety as her mind replayed every potential outcome and worst-case scenario. What would be said? What if the conversation unraveled, exposing her as the insecure, unworthy candidate she feared she was still destined to be. She set aside time each day to prepare, reflecting on the past, the mentorship that had once pushed her toward her ambitions, the supportive words of encouragement, and the moments when she had doubted herself during critical junctures. Armed with a notebook filled with questions and affirmations, Maria approached this meeting as if it were a pivotal job interview, determined to articulate her growth and acknowledge the lessons learned from her failures. Yet, in the quiet of her apartment, shades of self-doubt crept back in. Memories of criticism and moments of embarrassment resurfaced, tainting the quality of her inner dialogue. Still, she reminded herself of the workshop the collective courage embodied in vulnerability. That environment had almost rewritten her narrative. If she could share her fears in front of strangers, surely she could share them with the very person who had once guided her path. As the hour of her meeting approached, she donned her best attire, a simple yet elegant blouse paired with well-tailored trousers. Outside, the city hummed alive, contrasting sharply with the internal chaos clouding her mind. Maria arrived early, wanting to seize every moment, but as she waited, the anticipation morphed into a gnawing restlessness that tightened her chest. She could feel her heart thudding with each ticking second. When her mentor finally arrived, Maria was met with a version of the woman she had known both as a guide and a source of intimidation. The warmth in her smile was unmistakable, yet it ignited a furnace of insecurities within Maria. They exchanged pleasantries, and Maria's careful composure wavered. "Thank you for meeting with me," she began, her voice trembling slightly but steadying as she focused on the goal at hand. "I wanted to express how much your mentorship meant to me back then, and how it's influenced my journey." The tension slowly dissolved as they talked. Maria shared her dreams and aspirations, the workshops she had attended, and how each step had chipped away at her fear of inadequacy. Yet, her mentor wasn't just a passive listener. She probed deeper, compelling Maria to confront the fear hiding behind her aspirations. "And what truly holds you back, Maria?" she asked, her tone both challenging and compassionate. The question landed heavily. Maria faced her, felt the weight of that gaze, and the truth unspooled within her. It wasn't just her mentor's perception she feared, it was the weight of time lost and missed opportunities. There had been moments when she could have acted, could have embraced her goals, but hadn't. This moment forced her to reconsider, could her past failures actually serve as fuel for her future? "I fear that I've wasted so much time being afraid," she admitted, each word tasting bittersweet. "I allowed doubts to keep me silent. But I also realize I've learned the failures taught me resilience." The conversation shifted, and over the course of the next hour, they delved into strategies, specific steps Maria could tackle moving forward. The practical advice stirred her mind, mingling with a growing clarity about her capabilities. As they wrapped up, Maria felt an unfamiliar energy brewing within her. Her mentor encouraged her to act decisively, reinforcing that the only way to break free from fear was to step out of her comfort zone intentionally. "You know where you need to go, Maria. Don't be afraid to pursue it fiercely." Leaving the cafe, the city lights blazed around her, but there was a newfound luminosity in her spirit. The confrontation with her mentor had proved to be a revelation, revealing hidden strengths that aligned with her aspirations. However, as she navigated through the bustling streets, another realization washed over her. This was only the beginning. What would happen when she faced those she had once perceived as rivals? Would her emerging confidence withstand scrutiny? With a fire lit in her heart and uncertainty still threading its way through her mind, Maria prepared for the next leap. She was ready to confront the obstacles that loomed ahead, and a name surfaced in her thoughts: Clara. Her next big step lay not just in pursuing her passion but also in reaching out to those she had avoided out of fear. Would they support her comeback, or would they see her as just the shadow of her former self? Maria spent the night restless, the exhilaration from her mentor's encouragement clashing with the ever-present shadows of her doubts. As dawn broke, she sat at her small kitchen table, staring at her list of action steps while clutching her coffee mug tightly. Each bullet point felt like an intimidating milestone, yet the lingering fire from her meeting burned softly, urging her to move forward. She understood that reaching out to Clara would be a bold step. They hadn't spoken in months. Strains from previous competitive encounters had turned their exchanges curt, underscoring a divide. Clara had always been successful, exuding confidence that Maria had found both admirable and daunting. Maria pushed aside thoughts of the past that echoed with self-reproach and focused instead on the woman she wanted to be. She needed to cultivate a new narrative and, in doing so, bring Clara into the fold. Before she could ruminate longer, Maria picked up her phone, hesitated, then scrolled to Clara's contact. The sunlight streaming through the kitchen window felt warm against her skin, but the chill of uncertainty jolted through her. To draft a mere text or to call? Each option bore its own set of anxiety-laden implications. The call would feel more personal, yet it risked vulnerability that her heart recoiled from. In a burst of impulse, she hit call and held her breath until the phone rang. Hello. Clara's voice, both familiar and distant, sent a wave of nostalgia mixed with apprehension through Maria. Clara, it's Maria. The words tumbled out as she pressed against the countertop, bracing herself for the weight of the conversation. I was hoping we could meet. I really want to reconnect and discuss, well, everything. Everything? Clara echoed, skeptical. Yes. I've spent some time reflecting on things, and I'm ready to talk. There was no backing down now. Clara's silence felt like a measurement, a collating of memories that spiraled in Maria's mind. Finally, she replied, all right. When? The simplicity of that word, it echoed with hope. They settled on a coffee shop later in the week. Maria hung up the call, a rush of adrenaline coursing through her. By reaching out first, she wasn't simply attempting to mend fences, she was asserting her space in a narrative that had often sidelined her. The days leading to their meeting blurred with a parade of candid reflections. Maria laced her exercises with new insights, envisioning how she could approach the conversation, what she wanted to share, how she intended to express the lessons learned from past failures, and the respectful acknowledgement she owed Clara as a talented peer. The thought of facing her old rival sparked a mix of anticipation and dread, revealing how convoluted her path had been. When the day arrived, Maria chose her outfit with conviction, an outfit that emanated professionalism and self-assurance. It was no longer a mere shield against insecurity, it was an emblem of her transformation. As she walked into the coffee shop, the aroma of roasted beans filled the air, invigorating her spirit. Clara was already seated, scanning the surroundings with an air of poise. Maria felt the heaviness in her chest but also a surging current of determination. Thanks for meeting me, Maria started, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. Clara looked up, her expression unreadable. What's on your mind? Maria took a moment to gather her thoughts, and as she began her narration of the insights from her mentor, she noticed Clara's posture subtly shift. It was as if the conversation was unearthing a shared ground that had once felt foreign. They traded experiences, a delicate dance of vulnerability and understanding, all the while feeling the occasional sting of past rivalry. Yet with each revelation, a surprising warmth began to blossom. Their conversation was grounded in honesty, yet it stretched into a territory neither had anticipated. As they wrapped up, Maria felt lighter, but also exposed. This was just the initial step toward rebuilding trust. Could she truly forge a supportive connection now that she had begun to redefine her narrative? With a subtle tension lingering in the air, Maria realized that this encounter with Clara would either lead to collaborative growth or the struggles of acceptance in professional dynamics. But along with that uncertainty, she felt something else ignite within her, a fierce urgency to not only confront the past but to actively shape her future, no longer at the mercy of fear. As she prepared to say goodbye, a spark of new conflict ignited in her mind. What if she initiated something that Clara wasn't ready to embrace? Would this newly rekindled connection stand the test of time and mutual aspirations, or would it unravel in the face of competition? The days following her meeting with Clara rippled through Maria's consciousness, each moment steeped in the weight of potential and uncertainty. She replayed snippets of their conversation, the ebb and flow of shared experiences lingering like the significant notes of a choir. Yet, beneath that harmony lay an unsettling dissonance. Would Clara genuinely reciprocate the openness Maria had offered? Maria's professional commitments blossomed alongside her personal evolution. Her work atmosphere became an unexpected crucible for growth, yet the stakes felt higher than ever. Challenges emerged as projects became more demanding. Each task seemed to taunt her undercurrent of doubt, an annoying reminder of her insecurities. Did she really belong in this space of collaboration, or was it mere mimicry of confidence? Back at her desk, the tension tightened within her chest as she worked through a particularly intricate project. Swirls of frustration and doubt flooded her mind. This was where the pressure coiled tightly, the moments that could spiral into self-sabotage unless otherwise reframed. Suddenly, the lessons of her recent conversation with Clara intertwined with her struggles. Maybe this was growth confronting not just her past but the present moment head-on. She paused, allowing a breath to flow in and out, summoning the urgency that accompanied this newfound resolve. Instead of drowning in setbacks, what if she strategized her way through? Inspired by the conversation with Clara, Maria committed to elevating her mindset. She whipped out her notebook, the pages already filled with ideas and aspirations, and turned to a fresh sheet. A mind map sprawled before her, reflecting not just her tasks but their larger implications. Underneath the subheadings, she noted her intentions: collaboration, exchange of ideas, support. Perhaps it was time not only to lift herself but to inspire others in her team to embrace a shared narrative. It was a chance to build bridges instead of walls. With each ink stroke, a flicker of excitement surged. But the excitement was soon matched by daunting thoughts. Could she actually influence her colleagues towards this change, given her previous self-contained tendencies? The fear bubbled to the surface. It was familiar yet unnerving. Maria decided to embrace her discomfort. Inspired by her mentor's teachings, she sought out a project that required team collaboration. It required vulnerability, yet it would also provide her the opportunity to bring Clara's warmth into the workspace. A crafting of ideas seemed daunting, but perhaps this was a moment for action, a trial by fire to see if her newly defined narrative extended beyond personal ambitions. Her first step was to arrange a brainstorm session with her team, something she had previously avoided, tethered by fear of being overshadowed. As she sent out the invitation, a swell of nerves rushed through her. Would this inspire them, or would they see it as a waste of time? But then she remembered the shifting dynamic of her previous encounter with Clara, how sharing had opened doors unbeknownst to them. When the session commenced, Maria felt the electric tension in the room. As she posed her ideas, her colleagues seemed receptive, easing back her anxiety into intent. They began to engage, bouncing thoughts across the space. Laughter and realizations emerged, weaving a tapestry of collaborative spirit. This felt right. Not only was she contributing but she was also allowing others to lift their voices. Maria's confidence grew as her team responded with enthusiasm to her suggestions. She realized she had ignited something unexpected in herself, a spark of leadership previously dormant. Yet even as they brainstormed life-changing strategies, a nagging voice lingered in the back of her mind. Was this momentum sustainable? Could she really maintain her role as a catalyst for positive interaction? Emboldened by the session's success, she approached Clara later, suggesting they collaborate on a joint project that would not only celebrate their shared expertise, but also encourage interaction among their respective teams. Clara, surprised yet intrigued, agreed to the idea, and excitement surged through Maria's veins again. Yet, even as clarity beckoned, shadows of competition skittered at the edges. Would their teams truly embrace collaboration or replicate past tensions? This question loomed ominously, clouding the triumph of their cooperation. But as doubts twisted under the surface, another thought pushed through. She was shaping a new chapter. A chapter where she fiercely owned the narrative and transformed it into one of collaboration and strength, rather than rivalry. Resolute in her purpose, Maria left the office that day with a mixture of hope and determination. But even as new paths began to unveil themselves, the lingering question remained: was she truly ready for the deeper commitment that awaited with Clara, or were they both still wary of stepping beyond mere professional civility? Maria stood at the precipice of her journey, reflecting on the incredible transformation that had brought her to this moment. The sun bathed her small apartment in golden light, illuminating all her hard work and perseverance. Each hesitation, each moment of vulnerability had contributed to her newfound clarity and strength. She was no longer the anxious woman stuck in a cycle of fear, she had become a beacon of determination, facing herself with fierce honesty. The collaboration project with Clara was set to launch a week from now. Maria felt a blend of excitement and trepidation, recognizing that the atmosphere around them was palpable. She had reached out, extended her hand, and forged connections that could empower not just her dreams but her professional community. Yet, even in the midst of this excitement, remnants of self-doubt cast a fleeting shadow over her mind. Would she continue to maintain this new identity, or would the pressures of expectation crumple her resolve? As she sipped her morning coffee, Maria reflected on the journey she had undertaken. She recalled the day she had confronted her mentor, the moment when she had openly discussed her fears. Those words had ignited a spark deep within her, a drive to not only acknowledge her potential but to aggressively pursue it. She remembered how she had felt both empowered and vulnerable, knowing that her past didn't define her future. Her resolve solidified over the days as she began leading her team with authenticity. The collaborative brainstorming sessions revealed the kind of leader she had always aspired to be, someone who listened, encouraged dialogue, and creatively inspired others. As they worked together, Maria fostered an environment where every voice mattered, slowly unraveling the roots of competition among her colleagues. With each session, harmony emerged, and trust began to weave through their dynamic. As the day of the collaborative project approached, Maria took intentional steps to ensure the success of the initiative. She organized the details meticulously, planned communal action steps, and circulated supportive materials among the team. Clara, excited and encouraged, became a partner in this endeavor. The shared energy was infectious, and Maria's heart soared each time she saw their collaboration taking flight. The moment finally arrived, the day of the presentation. Maria stood in front of the room, adrenaline coursing through her veins, her colleagues buzzing with anticipation. It was her moment to showcase the passion and determination cultivated over the past few months. She took a deep breath, and as she began to speak, clarity washed over her. Each word flowed with conviction, her voice steady as she articulated their vision. The response was electrifying. Colleagues engaged, embraced the ideas, and offered their own contributions, amplifying the collective power of the team. It was no longer just about her, it was a shared success story, a testament to the strength forged through collaboration. Maria radiated confidence, revealing her true self, the capable, empowered woman who had been hiding in the shadows for far too long. When it came time for feedback, recognition flowed from her peers. They lauded the effectiveness of the teamwork and applauded her leadership. Maria received heartfelt compliments, but more importantly, she felt their respect for her journey, her vulnerabilities, and her triumph. As the presentation concluded, something transformative shifted within her. The accolades meant less to her than the profound realization that she belonged in this space, having earned her place not through conformity but through authenticity. Walking back from the presentation, Maria felt the weight of her past begin to dissipate. She had ventured through uncertainty and had emerged with expanded wisdom and purpose. She understood now that she was more than just a single mom juggling responsibilities, she was a leader and inspiration to others willing to embrace their authentic selves. In that moment of clarity, with her confidence glowing brightly, Maria knew she had conquered not only the challenges of her professional life but also the inner doubts that had held her captive for too long. Her journey had just begun, and she felt ready to take on whatever came next, unfettered and optimistic. Reflecting on her newfound strength, she realized the importance of sharing her experience, being the voice that could help others navigate their darkness. Reaching for her phone again, Maria thought about how she might inspire someone else on a similar journey, sharing her story through video, writing, or community workshops. As she made plans for her initial content, Maria's voice grew louder, echoing a declaration she vowed to make: I am worthy. I am capable. And I will continue to rise. And as she embarked on this next chapter, the shadows that had once defined her were now just stepping stones leading her toward a brighter, empowered future where she took charge of her narrative unapologetically. Now is the time to stand with Maria. You need to subscribe now to witness the incredible transformations we are sharing. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for those who overcome adversity. Comment with your thoughts, reactions, or theories about Maria's journey. Every word counts. Share instantly this video with 5 friends who could benefit from witnessing these moments of triumph and inspiration. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this empowering community.